How's it going, everybody? It's Pilot Flame, and we are back with another FPL preseason video, and today we're going to be continuing our Team to Watch series, and up next is Brentford, the third place team that is coming up from the Championship as they beat Swansea in the Championship playoffs. If you're new to this series, make sure to check out the playlist that we have for the new season, and all these videos are being done in alphabetical order for the teams in the Premier League, where we take a look at what players I'm interested in, what players I'm not so interested in, or may need something to happen in order for them to become FPL assets, and then we're going to take a look at their transfer activity, which may change our minds for certain players going into this season. If you haven't done so already, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new or haven't done so already, and turn those notification bells on so that you can get the content as soon as it is readily available. Also, give us a follow over on Twitter so you can see any updates to the channels and that sort of stuff. And give us a follow over on Twitch so that you can be ready when we go live for our FPL preview and deadline streams, which will be starting back up the week of the start of the Premier League season. Brentford and Arsenal kick off on the Friday. I think it's Friday the 13th, so somebody's going to have some bad luck potentially in that game. So without further ado, let's get a word from our sponsors. We have partnered up with Fantasy Football Scout for this coming Fantasy Premier League season, and they're giving you an exclusive offer. Use the link down in the description to get 20% off your Fantasy Football Scout membership. It gives you access to the exclusive members area, which has new tools such as the 3-player comparison tool, as well as some old favorites such as the Rate My Team tool, the season ticker, and my personal favorite, the fully customizable stats tables, which you can share among other Fantasy Football Scout members, powered by Opta Stats. Use the link down in the description below to get 20% off your membership today. Sign up now. So here we have listed 3 Brentford players which I am potentially interested in coming into the new FPL season. Now, take it with a pinch of salt. They are a team that has just been promoted from the Championship, and not every team is going to come up and do as well as Leeds have, although they have some bright prospects in my opinion. They also have a decent run of fixtures to start with. Arsenal at home. Again, Arsenal is basically a mid-table club at this point, so that's not too bad. It is the opening day of the season, so it could be a bit tricky, but I expect them to do somewhat well. Crystal Palace away. Not a bad fixture. Aston Villa away could be a bit tricky if they keep Jack Grealish, but again, could be quite straightforward. And Brighton, those teams all seem very, very beatable for a newly promoted team that plays a very attacking style of football. Now that could come at a potential cost. They may be hit on the counter, which Arsenal are very good at doing. Crystal Palace are very good on the counter. Aston Villa are very good on the counter. Brighton typically like to hold the ball, so maybe Brentford have to play a little bit deeper on that front. But I think they could do quite well. And here are some of the assets that we're potentially looking at. Mbeumo, who's someone who came in the second half of the season. This was mainly due to a formation change, which potentially could be the reason why some of their transfers are the way that they are. And basically they shifted from a 4-3-3, which had Ivan Toney, who you see down the bottom there, who's their main talisman, up top with 2 wide attackers, often tucking inside or holding the width and allowing fullbacks to underlap. But also this switch to a 3-5-2, which caused their identity to change completely. They went with wingbacks, and then the likes of Kanos, Mbeumo, these sorts of players were playing as the wingback rather than, the wide attacker, which ultimately could make their output a lot less. Now, Mbeumo did have 3 goals in the last 4 matches that he played in the season, and he often could play in a midfield 3. Could also play wide left as well. So again, these wingbacks don't necessarily have as much, I guess, defensive responsibility. It seems like the midfield is more functional in a sense, because one of their defensive midfielders, I can't remember his name, but he's moved us to their mainstay at right side at center back. They also got the captain back, who was injured for a significant period of the season as well. And I think Mbeumo or Kanos could be very good at 5.5 million, but it's if and only if they play as very, very high attackers that are close to the 18-yard box next to the man down the bottom, Ivan Toney, who I think he got like 31 goals or something like that in the Championship, or across all the different competitions in the Championship, including the league itself for that. And he's just fantastic. He's on penalties. He's 6.5 million. He's going to be a big bandwagon coming into the season. Arsenal at home, Crystal Palace away. Aston Villa away, Brighton at home. Those look to be great fixtures. Could he be the next Patrick Bamford? Could he be the next Ollie Watkins? We have, we will see in the coming weeks. And remember, Watkins came from Brentford, so they're pretty good at bringing along strikers who score a few goals. On the season, they had 79 goals, which is actually quite a lot. 61 assists across the whole season, too. 24 wins out of 46 games, and a lot of it went through Tony. He is on penalties, as we mentioned, which also adds to the fact that he could be just super valuable. So like Bamford, as an example, came in at 5.5 million, but wasn't on penalties. Obviously, we didn't know what Bamford was going to end up doing, but that it was a bit crazy what he did end up doing. Watkins, I believe, came in at 6 million or 6.5 million. He wasn't on penalties, but he was still as good. Now imagine if Tony comes in, does what Watkins does, and is on penalties. Brentford have a few good, wide attackers, obviously Mbeumo, Kanos, these sorts of players. Even their fullbacks as well are quite good at getting forward when they're in free flowing. So I think that could be quite an asset for them. Their attacking style of football will favor them, but against the bigger teams, maybe they get blown away. We'll have to see. If there is a player that I would say is nailed on for sure, is Ivan Toney. He very rarely gets subbed, although he got subbed off twice, but maybe they're preserving him for the playoff at the time. But yeah, the Brentford manager does like to make changes, and he does like to make them before the 60-minute marks. That's something to keep an eye out on. But Tony's usually not one of those players until later on in the game, after 60 minutes, where he's potentially done some damage. So that's it for those players that I'm interested in. Let's take a look at some of the players that I'm potentially not kind of thrilled by, or maybe something needs to change in order for me to consider them good FPL assets. Now, like any team that is newly promoted, the defense is always something I'm pretty much looking and going, hold on right there. How did they do in the championship, and were they good enough to kind of keep clean sheets and that sort of stuff? Now, Brentford were a very attack-minded team, which means that sometimes they left themselves open at the back. Did Raya make some saves? He did. He kept 3 clean sheets in the last 4, which is quite good. So from a 4.5 goalkeeper standpoint, that's not too bad in terms of form coming through in the championship. Obviously, if they had 4 out of 4 clean sheets, then clearly the championship's too easy for them. But it could be something to whereas they're just a wait and see type of thing. Janssen, their captain, obviously had a long-term injury in the championship, as we mentioned in the last segment. Henry is one of their fullbacks that was a mainstay within the team. Not much attacking threat there, as you can see from the last 4. I think overall in the season, I think he maybe got like 2 assists, 1 goal, 2 assists, something like that. As well as the other fullback, which was Dalsgaard, which we'll get to in a bit. He is somebody who's actually was just there for that season. He had been signed previously, but he ran out his contract and is now going to be leaving, which is unfortunate because he played a lot of games as well. And there would have maybe been a decision there, which 4.5 million fullback do you go for? Which have been quite interesting, like the Dallas versus Ayling type of situation, and we know how that went down. But defense, me personally, I think if you're rotating maybe the Brentford goalkeeper, so let's say you had a goalkeeper that had a good game week 1 and 3, and it mapped out to whereas Raya was going to be good for game week 2 and game week 4, where you had a goalkeeper that was 4.5 that also didn't have a good game week 2 and 4, then maybe Raya comes in for you, or he matches well with, let's say, Sanchez or Dubravka, if you're going to go for that rotational style. I went for that last season. I think this season I'm just going to go with a 4.5 million goalkeeper, maybe a 5 million goalkeeper, and just stick with them until I go to wildcard or something like that. But in terms of Brentford defense, I think it's a wait and see. Raya looks to be a decent 4.5 million goalkeeper, but again, with championship teams, it is a bit hard to determine. Henry looks like he could potentially be promising, and whichever player that they bring in at right back for this coming season. So without further ado, let's take a look at those transfers that Brentford has been doing in the transfer market this summer. Now here's a list of the possible transfers and for ins and outs that Brentford are looking to do. Now, I mentioned the system change, a 4-3-3 to a 3-5-2. So they're in the market for someone who's going to be playing that central defensive midfield role in the midfield 3 of the 5. So you have the left wing back, you have the right wing back, 2 kind of like box-to-box style midfielders, and then a proper number 6 at the base that sits in front of the back 3. Now, from what I've seen over the past seasons. They've done a lot of businesses. No, excuse my pronunciation of this, but I think it's FC Midgeliton? FCM. The one that you see Onyeka is potentially coming from, and the one Dalsgaard is actually on a free transfer to as well. Midtjylland, maybe that's it. We'll go with that. But it's basically in the Denmark first tier, the Superligaen. He's going to be potentially coming in and playing that center defensive midfield role. 23 years of age. Around 5.2 million. It's 6 million euros, and he would be coming from there to Brentford, and he could potentially fill that role in center defensive midfield. When he comes in FPL, not too sure, but he's probably not going to be an FPL asset. It's just potentially, if they continue with that system, he's going to be probably the number 6 that they're looking at, as they've done business with that club before, and it just seems like there is a high amount of interest. Transfermarkt had it at like a 90+% chance that the transfer is going to happen. Another situation here is that Bidstrup, who is a kind of all-purpose midfielder, typically plays like centrally, but also can play out on the left, on the right as well. He was purchased from RB Leipzig's under-19s. He was in Brentford's B team, which is like their kind of academy, and he's come up now as well into the main team. So maybe he takes up one of those midfield slots. He's 4.5 million as well, and he could be somebody who potentially is very, very valuable. Maybe a Basuma type player, in terms of he's 4.5 million. He's going to come in, get you 2 points, that sort of thing. But if he ends up being a little bit more advanced, then that's when we're interested in. That's where we can say this guy's playing as like a number 10. He's come up from the B team. He's starting game in, game out. He's 4.5 million. He could be fantastic. In terms of the outs, Dalsgaard is the main miss. Like you said, he's going to Midtjylland. I think I got it right the third time. We'll get it right. We'll get all the teams right eventually. But he's going on a free there as well. He was their mainstay at right back. He played like 30 or had 30 plus appearances for Brentford in the championship in just the season alone. And he could be a big miss there. So who they bring in at fullback there, we'll have to wait and see on that front. There's no links as of yet. It's just Onyeka is the one that they're mainly looking at the moment. So maybe they do the deal for the right back after the fact. And then Marcondes is someone who was also playing like a kind of like a number 10 / like left wing, kind of like a Jack Grealish style of role. He's also gone on a free transfer to Bournemouth. He played 31 games, 1 goal, 2 assists. So when the system changed, again, he was one of those players that was potentially sometimes playing on the left hand side, and Kanos could play on the right, but then Kanos could also play on the left as well, and they'd often switch with each other. He was no longer used because they were kind of using him in that kind of role. They were using attacking 8s rather than out and out like number 10s. And it was Nordgaard actually who shifted from he was playing defensive midfield in the 4-3-3, and he's moved alongside in the back 3 at center back, and this is where he's going to be replaced by Onyeka potentially with those transfers. So potentially some interesting things for Brentford. I think the 3-5-2 formation, from what we've seen for Scotland versus England, so a team with a lot of quality, can cause problems with the 3-5-2 in terms of low block, and then you can hit them on the break with the likes of Kanos, with the likes of Ivan Toney as well. And they could be quite good on the break and just frustrating teams. But also, they have the quality. They'll pack up the midfield. They'll try to win the midfield battle there and potentially spread it wide, and then look to make intricate plays inside, having the wing backs overlapping, making underlapping runs, giving defenders something to think about. So I think Brentford could be a very interesting team, and I'm very curious to see how they start off, because Arsenal, they do have some decent players in their team. They're looking to bring in some more quality as well, and it could be interesting to see how they do up against Arsenal right out the gate. And yeah, I'm very excited for that as well. So that is going to do it for all of the transfers. And that's going to do it for our team watch for Brentford. If you did enjoy the video and you are enjoying the series, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and turn those notification bells on so that you can get the content as soon as it is readily available. There's going to be a lot more coming this preseason, as well as throughout the FPL season, with old series like we've had before. So this is the captaincy video, buy, hold, sell, pep roulette, all that stuff that you guys enjoy. Also, make sure to give us a follow over on Twitter so you can keep up to date with any FPL news. I usually retweet that throughout the season, as well as any transfers potentially that come out that will impact FPL. And give us a follow over on Twitch so that you can keep up to date and when we go live for our preview and deadline streams. And lastly, make sure to hit that link down below. If you haven't checked out Fantasy Football Scouts membership area, it is fantastic. Make sure to click the link below. It helps us out, it helps you out, and it could up your FPL game. Thanks for watching, and until the next one, take care.